Welcome to Through a Glass Darkly Radio. You're listening to us on United Public Radio, and that song was Mark of the Doomslayer by Karl at White Bat Audio. So, welcome back, everyone. First, I just want to make sure this is very strange. So, StreamYard keeps making random changes, and some of the random changes they make you worry that things aren't working when they probably are. So can somebody just verify that they can hear me? Hey, Scott, good to see you. Otherwise, I will redo the intro. Like there's just this like weird. Okay, good. All right. That means it's working. All right. So this one's much shorter. It's kind of a weird one. I also was working on a new channel, and I just discovered that I deleted all the work that I did on that new channel. I mean, it wasn't super extensive, but it's a little annoying that I wasted hours of work. I'll never do that again, which means just putting something on my desktop. So it must be working too much, but it is what it is. So today's scheduled program is going to be kind of in the occult, the hidden occult origins of the modern intelligence agencies. So we will talk about that. But before I talk about that, I because of a recent video that I posted that YouTube promptly limited monetization on, YouTube is very concerned that I'm going to unalive myself. Based on, as far as I can gather, the simple title of the latest episode with Adam Butler. I was not happy to receive that from YouTube. It kind of frankly pissed me off. Like, I don't need your, if I needed your fucking concern, how about you stop how about you stop unsubscribing people on my channel? Okay. Like, it's just absolutely bizarre stuff. So just because Adam Butler talked about his story about, becoming sober and having unaliving ideation and stuff like that, somehow some concerned troll interpreted that as, anyway, like, I'll handle my own business. Okay. Just get out of my fucking way, YouTube. Seriously. Like that really pissed me off. So anyway, yeah, exactly. In fact, I'm just going to show it to you because it is so like unhinged. Let's see. Like, I am livid about this thing. Just bear with me. I gotta pull up like a different thing. Okay. Let me share this. Don't worry. Like the content, I don't have as much content this time anyway, so I can share screen. Okay. All right. Like, seriously, I got this recently. Hi there. We're reaching out because members of the YouTube community, including fellow creators, viewers, or staff, have expressed concern for your safety or well-being after coming across content you posted with topics related to unaliving, self-harm, or eating disorders. Right? That's the title. I'm not going to say it out loud, but they already limited monetization. If you or someone you know is struggling with ideation, like, really, just stop shadow banning my channel. How about that? That's how you can help. Okay? Seriously. Go fuck yourself. Anyway. Like, it's just bizarre. And it's infuriating. Just this concern trolling nonsense. Anyway, all right, I'll move away from that. But I want to see the reaction. Yeah, it's just unreal. No, I don't have Duncan right now. So that's probably why. Yeah, Seoul US expat. Yeah, I heard back from Joe. I think I interview him in early December. Yeah, that's exactly what it is, Scott. So Scott writes, and it's just a bot checking in on you because an actual human would get the context. I mean, literally, the video was about a guy who had a drinking problem and turned his life around through things I'm not going to talk about because I also don't want to demonetize or get this thing banned. But it's a super positive video about how this guy how Adam Butler turned his life around. And they send me that, and they also limit its monetization. Seriously, come on. It's AI. It's AI. It's AI doesn't know, like, I mean, they have Gemini AI, right? Like the one that like would not, you could not have it draw or have it render images of white popes, even though every pope since the history of popedom has been white, right? And has never been female, but it would generate like female popes, non-white female popes, or like black Nazis, like, because it just it's probably related to that, and they keep pushing Gemini on me. After that, like, I will never use Gemini. The same Gemini that you could draw black families, you could do images of Hispanic families, but if you said draw me a white family, it'd be like, oh, multicultural, that's not possible. So that's basically, you have Gemini, which is basically certifiable. Could you imagine, like, this stuff's going to be making decisions soon, and it's going to be corrupted by this kind of nonsense. So anyway, I am so pissed off about that. It's just like, it's so hard to grow, and you're going to send that. The hell is wrong with this thing? Anyway, just not cool at all. Yeah, or a trailer park or something else. So even Johns Hopkins conducts PTSD and serious pernicious addiction therapies with special medicines. Yeah, which I'm not even going to mention, because just watch the video and you'll see how, like, uplifting it is. It's sad because it was the worst performing video I've had in 2 years, outside of, like, like a live, like just a regular video. Not live streams don't perform as well, but like, and I know that's not by accident, right? It had all the words. It had the words. So anyway, it's just unbelievable. Unbelievable. Sorry for the stream of profanity, but just YouTube gets so much wrong. It's just so much wrong. So I'm just telling everyone here, I have no plans to unalive myself anytime soon. Okay. I don't know why YouTube thinks I do, but it's really patronizing and it pissed me off. So anyway. Yeah, I'm not going to repeat some of those words just because. Okay. All right, let's get started because I know people are here for the other thing. Where am I? Bear with me. Okay. All right. The Magicians of Empire. John Dee, Aleister Crowley, Jack Parsons, and the Hidden Magical Roots of Modern Intelligence Agencies. Modern intelligence agencies often viewed, hold on, let me just make sure I capture where I left off so that I can find you. Oops, we got through that. Yeah, please hype the video. Everybody hit the like button. Okay. All right, so modern intelligence agencies, often viewed as bastions of rational strategy and realpolitik, have surprising historical connections to the realm of magic and the occult. This podcast explores how the three enigmatic figures, John Dee, Aleister Crowley, and Jack Parsons, merged esoteric practices with the service of empire and stagecraft. Drawing on perspectives from history, intelligence studies, esotericism, and political science, we examine each figure's biography and mystical philosophy and how their activities foreshadowed or influenced the development of intelligence agencies, with a focus on the World War II era Office of Strategic Services, OSS. Each of these magicians of empire operated in different eras but shared common threads: a belief in secret knowledge, a talent for coded communication and deception, an engagement with state power. Crucially, their legacies suggest ideological continuities between occult practices and intelligence craft. From coded angelic alphabets and clandestine networks in the 16th century to occult-inspired psyops and remote viewing programs in the 20th century. By analyzing John Dee's Enochian magic and imperial vision, Aleister Crowley's Thelema and wartime espionage exploits, and Jack Parsons' rocketry-fueled occultism in the Cold War context, we uncover the hidden magical roots that have, perhaps and probably, nourished aspects of modern intelligence culture. The sections below provide in-depth profiles of these individuals, followed by an analysis of how their esoteric endeavors intersected with and influenced the world of intelligence and empire. We'll start with John Dee, Imperial Magus and Prototypical Spy. John Dee, from 1527 to 1608, embodied the union of Renaissance culture, occult philosophy, and imperial ambition. Educated at Cambridge and renowned across Europe for his scholarship, Dee was a polymath who engaged with astronomy, navigation, mathematics, alchemy, astrology, and more. In an era before science and magic were starkly separated, he saw all knowledge as part of a divine system. Dee's intellectual brilliance won him a place as a trusted confidant of Queen Elizabeth I, who called him, quote-unquote, my philosopher. Throughout the early Elizabethan era, Dee acted as a one-man think tank for the court, offering counsel on matters from astrology to national strategy. Notably, in 1570, he produced an extensive report on the realm's political and economic state, advocating for solutions that would strengthen England. He became one of the main architects of an imperial vision for England, being the first to use the term British Empire in his writings. In a 1577 treatise on navigation, Dee argued that a British Empire could be realized through naval supremacy and overseas expansion. Thus, well before England had established a global empire, Dee's occult-informed imperialism helped plant the ideological seeds of British global ambition. Even as he guided England's worldly empire, John Dee was delving into otherworldly realms. He is most famous for attempting to communicate with angels, a pursuit that culminated in the Enochian magic system. Beginning in 1582, Dee and his scryer, or medium, Edward Kelly, conducted scrying sessions in which angels supposedly dictated a unique angelic language. Dee recorded these sessions in his diary, creating a voluminous corpus of Enochian letters, tables, and incantations. For centuries, historians viewed these spirit conversations as evidence of Dee's credulity or even instability. However, recent research by scholars like Peter Levenda suggests a provocative alternative. Enochian may have been a sophisticated cipher or code devised by Dee for intelligence purposes. Dee was known to be skilled in cryptography, and the angelic language's complex grammar and alphabet could have served to encrypt messages. Indeed, Dee undertook travels in Central Europe, including Prague, during the period of the angelic communications, ostensibly seeking occult knowledge. Some historians now theorize he was on a clandestine mission for Elizabeth's spy master, Sir Francis Walsingham, using the veneer of angelic scholarship as cover. If so, the calls to angels might double as coded reports to England. Notably, Dee's contemporary, the scientist Robert Hooke, later speculated that the angelic diaries were actually top-secret political communications disguised as magic. Enochian magic aside, Dee's broader occult philosophy viewed England's imperial destiny as ordained in the heavens. He believed that through astrology and angelic guidance, he could discern divine favor for Elizabeth's rule. According to accounts, he even chose Elizabeth's coronation date astrologically and was rumored to have attempted magical interventions in national crises, such as raising a storm to repel the Spanish Armada in 1588. While the story of Dee conjuring the destructive storm may be apocryphal, it highlights how his reputation as a magus merged with his role as a patriotic advisor. In truth, Dee's command of emerging scientific knowledge, for instance, meteorology, may have allowed him to predict the weather, which he leveraged to counsel patients as the Armada approached. This blend of science, strategy, and mysticism in service of the realm exemplifies the magician of empire archetype that Dee represents. Excuse me. Beyond his occult fame, John Dee was arguably a founding figure of English intelligence. The Queen needed eyes and ears across Europe, and Dee was her man, exploiting his scholarly travels and contacts for espionage. He built an extensive network of correspondence among Europe's learned circles, scientists, scholars, and nobles, and accumulated England's largest private library, which became an information hub. Under the pretext of exchanging knowledge, Dee could gather political and military intelligence from abroad. It is telling that Dee signed his secret letters to Elizabeth with the code 007, writing 2 circles and a 7 to signify for your eyes only. Ian Fleming, creator of James Bond, later acknowledged that his 16th century 007 was an inspiration for this fictional spy. Indeed, historians note that Dee played an essential role in the evolution of British intelligence services, both in reality and legend. Dee's activities prefigure many elements of modern intelligence tradecraft. He engaged in covert missions under diplomatic cover, using ciphers, possibly including the Enochian script, to encode messages and leverage his reputation, some would say notoriety, as an eccentric mystic, to fly beneath suspicion. Operating in an era wherein espionage was in its infancy, Dee helped lay the groundwork for an organized intelligence network under Walsingham. He personified overlap between the intelligence community and the occult at the very dawn of the spy era. As one analysis observes, it is difficult for many to reconcile the serious business of espionage with metaphysical pursuits. Yet in Dee's case, the two were deeply intertwined from the start. In the end, John Dee's fortunes waned. After Elizabeth's death in 1603, he lost his high-level protection and was marginalized as a sorcerer in James I's more skeptical court. But his legacy lived on in 2 spheres: the British Empire that he conceptually midwifed, and the clandestine craft of intelligence that would centuries later formally institutionalize. Dee's life demonstrates that the roots of empire building and spycraft in the English-speaking world were nourished by mystical and magical ideas. He was a Renaissance man who saw no conflict in deploying both arcane knowledge and covert action to advance his sovereign's power. Then we move on to Aleister Crowley, the great beast as secret agent. No figure of the earliest 20th century better exemplifies the convergence of occultism and espionage than Aleister Crowley, who lived from 1875 to 1947. Dubbed the wickedest man in the world by the tabloids of his day, Crowley was a flamboyant occultist, writer, and self-proclaimed prophet of a new age. He founded the religion of Thelema, declaring a new aeon of Horus, with the maxim, "Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law." Thelema's philosophy exalted individual will and magical attainment, incorporating rituals, Eastern mysticism, and unorthodox sexual practices. Crowley's Book of the Law, received in 1904 through a supposed supernatural revelation in Egypt, outlined this new spiritual law and positioned Crowley as its chief prophet. Thus, on one level, Crowley devoted his life to esoteric pursuits, from leading occult orders, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, then Ordo Templi Orientis, to conducting magical rituals aimed at personal enlightenment or metaphysical goals. Yet alongside his public career as an occultist and poet, Crowley led a parallel life that intersected with the world of intelligence and geopolitics. Historian Richard B. Spence and others have amassed evidence that Crowley worked for, or at least with, British intelligence agencies during both world wars. Crowley's mystique and notorious reputation, being known as the Great Beast 666, paradoxically made him an attractive clandestine asset. His outrageous public persona provided an excellent cover, as no one would suspect such a scandalous occultist to be secretly loyal to His Majesty's government. This portion of the podcast explores Crowley's esoteric beliefs and how they meshed with his shadowy wartime roles, illustrating the overlap of magical and intelligence operations in his life. Crowley's thelemic philosophy is key to understanding his mindset and its appeal to powerful circles. Thelema taught that a new epoch had begun in human spiritual evolution, the Aeon of Horus, in which individuals would throw off old religious and moral constraints in favor of discovering and obeying their true will. Crowley's maxim, "Do what thou wilt," did not imply hedonism without regard to others, as is often misrepresented. Rather, it meant each person has a unique divine purpose or will, and following it is the highest law. Ritual magic, which Crowley famously spelled with a K to distinguish it from stage magic, was the tool to achieve spiritual enlightenment and effect change in conformity with that will. Practically, Crowley's magic incorporated ceremonial rituals, invocations of deities or demons, yoga, meditation, and sexual magic. He borrowed from and built upon the rituals of the Golden Dawn, where he had been trained in the late 1890s, and later took leadership of the Ordo Templi Orientis, OTO, which he reformulated along thelemic lines. The OTO under Crowley exposed sexual libertinism as a path to spiritual power, using sex magic rituals to channel energies. Crowley's creed was transgressive and anti-Victorian, celebrating pagan deities, promoting drug use and free sexuality, all of which earned him infamy in the press. However, Crowley saw thelema as empowering, a means to reshape society by replacing Christian meekness with a new aristocracy of willpower. In his words, he aimed to guide the priesthood of the princes who would rule in the New Age. This quasi-Nietzschean aspect of thelema, the idea of enlightened elites rising above the masses, dovetailed curiously with Crowley's intermittent patriotism. Despite his occult iconoclasm, Crowley remained in many ways an Englishman with imperialist sympathies, viewing Britain and the Anglo-Saxon world as destined to play a leading role in the New Age. During World War I and its aftermath, Aleister Crowley was indeed involved in espionage exploits that seemed stranger than fiction. In 1914, Crowley traveled to the United States. When Britain and Germany went to war, Crowley, to the shock of those who took his public antics at face value, began writing virulently pro-German propaganda for a New York journal called The Fatherland. This earned him denunciations back home as a traitor. However, Crowley later claimed in his 1929 autobiography, Confessions, that he was not actually a German tool, but a double agent working on behalf of British intelligence. He asserted that his absurdly over-the-top propaganda writings went intentionally ridiculous in order to discredit the German cause in American eyes. For decades, this claim was dismissed as Crowley's attempts to salvage his reputation, but declassified documents and research by Richard Spence have since corroborated key parts of Crowley's story. U.S. military intelligence files from World War I, unearthed by Spence, concluded that Crowley was an employee of the British government on official business, and that British authorities were fully aware of his anti-British articles, even facilitating them. In other words, the Beast was telling at least a partial truth. He had infiltrated the German propaganda circle in the U.S. on behalf of Britain. Crowley's service in World War I included activities like informing on Irish and Indian nationalists in America who were plotting with Germany against British interests. He mingled with all manner of subversives using his bohemian and occultist guise to gather intel. Spence documents that Crowley continued to have intermittent contacts with intelligence figures into the interwar and World War II period. For example, in the 1920s to 30s, he befriended or crossed paths with people like Everhard Fielding, who was a psychical researcher with MI5 links, Maxwell Knight, who was the MI5 spy master, and Ian Fleming, who was a future author, then naval intelligence officer. Such connections suggest that Crowley never fully left the orbit of espionage. One of the most intriguing, if semi-mythical, episodes is Crowley's alleged involvement in British intelligence schemes during World War II. One off-cited story involves Rudolf Hess, Hitler's deputy, who was deeply obsessed with astrology and the occult. In May 1941, Hess made his bizarre solo flight to Scotland, apparently hoping to negotiate peace. British intelligence, keen to exploit Nazi occult beliefs, reportedly considered using Crowley to interrogate or influence Hess, given Crowley's expertise in esoteric matters and Hess's known fascination with them. According to some accounts, Ian Fleming himself proposed that Crowley be employed to draw out Hess's secrets by discussing astrology and the occult. It's unclear if this meeting ever actually occurred, but it reflects how Crowley was viewed within certain circles as a secret weapon of psychological warfare. Additionally, Crowley later took credit for inspiring the V for Victory sign used by Churchill, claiming he suggested the popular magical symbol, a circle with a pentagram or the letter V, as a counter sigil to the Nazi swastika. While this claim is hard to verify, a Reuters report notes Crowley indeed created the V for Victory symbol as part of his efforts to psychically combat the Axis. True or not, it exemplifies how an occultist's bag of tricks overlapped with propaganda and morale operations in wartime. Crowley's intelligence role has been the subject of serious historical inquiry. In Secret Agent 666, Aleister Crowley, British Intelligence, and the Occult, Richard Spence argues that Crowley was a patriotic agent who endured public vilification as a traitor, partly as cover for his covert work. Spence's archival research indicates Crowley knowingly accepted the role of national villain to mask his loyalty. This interpretation remains debated. Other scholars, like Marco Pacey, caution that Crowley might have been more of an occasional informant than a formal agent. However, even skeptics agree Crowley had numerous dealings with intelligence personnel and offered his services. By the end of World War II, Crowley was in correspondence with security officials. For instance, he corresponded with the Naval Intelligence Division about his knowledge of astrology. The British intelligence agencies, for their part, have been evasive about Crowley. MI5 long denied having any files on him, only to later admit, when confronted with evidence, that files existed but were destroyed. MI6 similarly neither confirmed nor denied involvement. Such obfuscation is typical if an individual had a covert role. In sum, Crowley's case demonstrates that intelligence agencies were willing to engage with occultists and use occult techniques when expedient, blurring the line between magic and espionage. Aleister Crowley's life is a study in contrasts. The Magus, who reveled in attacking conventional religion, ended up an asset of the very establishment he seemed to defy. But this is less paradoxical than it appears. Crowley's Thelemic creed shared a certain resonance with the aims of empire and intelligence work. Both valued knowledge, power, and secret initiative. Crowley believed in cultivating higher consciousness and will to exert influence over reality, in effect, a mystical analog of influencing world events. Intelligence agencies similarly operate through secrecy, deception, and psychological influence to shape outcomes. It is therefore not entirely surprising that Crowley's skills in cryptography, he was a chess master and puzzle solver in character play acting, in understanding the enemy's mystical mindset, proved useful in the great game of nations. Furthermore, Crowley's willingness to endure reputational costs for a greater purpose mirrors an intelligence operative's ethos of sacrifice and subterfuge. Politically, Crowley was no Democrat. He spoke of a natural aristocracy. Those who discovered their true will could lead humanity. In the Edwardian and interwar context, this aligned with an elitist and imperial worldview. Indeed, Crowley at times expressed racial and imperial sentiments consistent with his upbringing. For instance, seeing the Anglo-Saxon as a vanguard of civilization, albeit reborn under Thelema. During World War II, despite previous flirtations with Germany, he declared support for Britain against the Black Brotherhood of Hitler, whom he saw as perverting mystical symbols for evil. Thus, Crowley's occult philosophy did not prevent him from choosing sides. Instead, he framed the war as magical warfare between the forces of light and darkness. So, light, the Allies, and darkness at the Axis. This framing was more than metaphorical. It led to actual collusion with Allied intelligence and psychological operations. For example, as noted, Crowley kept up correspondence with German occultists during World War II, feeding them false or misleading astrological information to undermine Nazi decision-making. Here we see occult knowledge used quite literally as an instrument of statecraft. In conclusion, Aleister Crowley stands as a fascinating bridge between the secret societies of occultism and the secret services of government. His life illustrates how the occult war intersected with the geopolitical war, with figures like Crowley serving both as high priests of mystic orders and as agents, official or freelance, of imperial intelligence. The British OSS liaison to Crowley, if one can call it that, demonstrated that the guardians of the realm were not above exploiting esoteric means for strategic ends. Now we move on to Jack Parsons, rocketry, Thelema, and the dawn of the Cold War occult. In the figure of Jack Parsons, who was born in 1914 and died in 1952, the magical and the technological collide. Parsons was a brilliant rocket engineer and chemist who played a key role in founding the U.S. Jet Propulsion Laboratory and the Aerojet Engineering Corporation, achievements that helped propel the United States into the space age. Yet he was also an ardent Thelemite occultist, a devotee of Aleister Crowley's teachings, and later of a branch of Crowley's magical order in California. To his Pasadena neighbors and colleagues, Parsons cut a perplexing figure. By day, an innovative scientist developing rocket fuels for the American military. By night, the wild host of occult rituals and Babylon workings aiming to invoke mystical entities. Parsons' life just juxtaposed cutting-edge science with fringe spirituality, embodying the notion that the birth of modern intelligence defense institutions had some decidedly bizarre midwives. In this section, we examine Parsons' biography and esoteric practices and how they entangled with government interests and the early Cold War security apparatus. Parsons' own story shows the hidden underside of the nascent American security establishment, one in which an occult antichrist figure helped forge technologies of war, only to later be cast out under suspicion of espionage and subversion. His trajectory from Pentagon-funded wunderkind to blacklisted outcast highlights how intelligence agencies responded to occult involvement and how occult ideas like Thelema and Enochian magic found their way into the halls of science and defense. Jack Parsons, born Marvel Whiteside Parsons, came of age in 1930s California with parallel passions, rocketry and the occult. Largely self-educated in explosives, Parsons and his childhood friend, Ed Foreman, earned the nickname Suicide Squad for their dangerous backyard rocket experiments. In 1936, Parsons teamed with graduate students at Caltech, notably Frank Molina, and with support from luminary Theodore von Karman, to create a formal rocket research group. This group achieved major breakthroughs, including the first workable jet-assisted takeoff, JATO, rockets for the U.S. Army Air Corps. And by 1943, it evolved into the Jet Propulsion Laboratory under Army-Navy oversight. Parsons proved instrumental developing new solid rocket fuels and explosives. Even Werner von Braun later acknowledged Parsons as a founding father of rocketry. During World War II, as the Allies raced to catch up with German V-2 missile development, Parsons and his colleagues at JPL secured funding and contracts to supply rockets for military use. Thus, at a young age, Parsons was deeply enmeshed in the American defense establishment, contributing directly to what would become the nation's missile and space programs. Concurrently, Parsons was immersing himself in Crowleyan occultism. He read Crowley's works and in 1939 attended a Gnostic Mass at the local chapter of Crowley's OTO, known as the Agape Lodge in Pasadena. By early 1941, Parsons and his first wife, Helen, formally joined the lodge and rapidly became one of its leading lights. Crowley, still alive in England, corresponded with the group and took a keen interest in Parsons, seeing in the charismatic young scientist a potential successor. Parsons took on the magical motto, Thelema Obtentum Proceduro Amoris Nuptiae, a clumsy Latin phrase roughly invoking Thelema and love, and delighted in high-degree OTO rituals. His Pasadena home, an 11-bedroom mansion on South Orange Grove Avenue, nicknamed the Parsonage, became a notorious bohemian enclave for occultists, artists, and adventurers. There, Parsons and his circle conducted hedonistic rites. They held Gnostic mass ceremonies, astrological gatherings, and orgiastic magic rituals fueled by plentiful drugs and sexual libertinism. The house developed a scandalous reputation locally. Wild rumors of black magic and sex orgies swirled to the point that police and the FBI occasionally investigated. In one 1942 probe, an FBI agent visited the parsonage after reports of strange goings-on, but left concluding the group was not a threat to national security, noting only that the house was a gathering place of perverts, reflecting the early era's view of the pansexual lifestyle. Parsons saw no contradiction between his scientific work and occult practice. In fact, he perceived both as ways to expand the frontiers of human possibility. As a scientist, he pushed toward the stars. As a Thelemite magician, he sought to invoke higher spiritual forces. He even injected mysticism into rocketry, famously reciting Crowley's Hymn to Pan before rocket tests as a sort of techno-pagan prayer. One colleague recalled that Parsons saw himself in the lineage of scientist occultists like Newton, who studied alchemy and was a Renaissance man for whom poetry and myth blended with engineering. Indeed, Parsons' writings and letters often waxed poetic about the mystical importance of space travel, suggesting that voyaging beyond Earth would be both a literal and spiritual liberation for humanity. To him, rocket science and magic were two sides of the same coin, each enabling escape from earthly limitations, whether physical or spiritual. By late World War II, Jack Parsons' personal life and magical practices reached a fever pitch. In 1945 to 46, reeling from professional and romantic setbacks, Parsons embarked on his most infamous magical experiment, the Babylon Working. This was a series of rituals aimed at manifesting Babylon, the Thelemic goddess who represents the liberated female sexual force, an archetype of Crowley's envisioned New Age. Parsons, acting as high priest and working with his new housemate, a young science fiction writer and U.S. Navy officer named L. Ron Hubbard, later founder of Scientology, performed elaborate ceremonies in the Mojave Desert and at the parsonage. They invoked Enochian calls using John Dee's angelic language and performed autoerotic rituals in an attempt to conjure an elemental mate for Parsons. Parsons believed success came when, shortly thereafter, artist Marjorie Cameron entered his life. He regarded her as the elemental woman invoked by the ritual. They married in 1946, and Parsons proclaimed that the first phase of the Babylon mission was complete. Parsons' grand plan did not stop at summoning a muse. He saw himself as the father to a coming moon child, a prophesized magical child who would be born and help catalyze the new eon. Crowley had written a novel, Moonchild, about such a concept. Parsons wrote to Crowley of his intention to eventually conceive a child through Cameron that would incarnate Babylon's spirit on Earth. He even began signing letters as Antichrist and drafting a manifesto, Freedom is a Two-Edged Sword, outlining a libertarian occult social philosophy. In essence, Parsons took Thelemic ideology to its radical conclusion, openly declaring war on the old Judeo-Christian order and imagining a new spiritual empire led by empowered individuals, with himself as a key avatar. These activities, unsurprisingly, drew negative attention from the conservative post-war climate. The FBI and local authorities grew increasingly alarmed at Parsons' open espousal of witchcraft, of voodoo, and black magic, as one report phrased it, and his association with known eccentrics and possible subversives. In 1946, Parsons had been ousted from the company Aerojet he co-founded, due in part to his unorthodox behavior and safety issues. With the war over, he found it difficult to secure employment in the defense industry despite his expertise. The emerging Cold War ethos in American institutions had little tolerance for an unabashed occultist with past socialist associations and a penchant for orgies. Indeed, Parsons had attended a few meetings of the Communist Party in the late 1930s, likely out of youthful curiosity, which later came back to haunt him during loyalty investigations. By 1948, Jack Parsons fell directly into the crosshairs of U.S. counterintelligence. That year, while seeking to return to government rocket work, he underwent a security clearance review. The FBI investigated his OTO ties and alleged communist contacts, ultimately revoking his clearance and barring him from classified projects. Parsons suddenly found himself an unemployable pariah in the very field he pioneered. Over the next few years, he scraped by with odd jobs, even pumping gas and working as a hospital orderly, while continuing occult practices on the side. Friends intervened to get his clearance reinstated in 1949 for a job at Hughes Aircraft, but almost immediately Parsons was caught in another scandal. He was found to have removed confidential documents from Hughes, purportedly to support a job application abroad. The FBI opened a case on Parsons for espionage, suspecting he might be selling rocket secrets, possibly to Israel or other countries. Although no charges were ultimately filed, the U.S. attorney chose not to prosecute. The damage was done. Parsons' clearance was permanently revoked, and his career in rocketry was effectively over. It is telling that in the FBI's nearly 200-page file on Parsons, agents took note of his occult activities alongside his political ones. The implication was that belief in the occult might correlate with an unreliable nonconformist character, a potential security risk. In the climate of the early 1950s McCarthyism, Parsons' deviant lifestyle and religion marked him as doubly suspect. Even science fiction fandom, with which Parsons was involved, was viewed warily as a possible channel for unorthodox ideas. The U.S. security agencies thus treated Parsons as a cautionary tale, a genius whose occult and sexual libertinism supposedly led him down a path of moral turpitude and disloyalty. Ironically, Parsons himself repeatedly professed his anti-communist and anti-fascist stance to investigators, arguing that Thelema stood for absolute individual liberty against tyranny of either the right or left. This availed him little in an atmosphere that distrusted any non-traditional creed. In June 1952, on the eve of a planned move to Mexico for employment, Jack Parsons died in an explosion in his home under mysterious circumstances. The official ruling was accident, a dropped vial of volatile chemicals, though friends whispered about possible foul play or even occult forces at work. Regardless, Parsons' death at age 37 sealed his legend as a rocketeer sorcerer who lived fast and died young. For decades, his contributions to rocketry were downplayed or written out of official histories, partly because JPL and NASA found his occult notoriety embarrassing. Only later did historians and writers, for instance, John Carter in Sex and Rockets and George Pendle in Strange Angel, resurrect Parsons' story, acknowledging that the U.S. space program had, in Pendle's words, an occult birth. Parsons' legacy is twofold. Technologically, he helped give America the literal rockets for its superpower arsenal, the JATO units to long-range missiles. Culturally, he injected the occult counterculture into the scientific establishment, serving as inspiration for countless works linking space travel and mysticism. Intelligence agencies in the 1950s, for their part, learned a lesson from Parsons. Thereafter, they imposed stricter security clearance protocols to screen for personal behaviors or beliefs deemed un-American. The magical subcultures retreated underground or into fiction, as overt occultism was not welcome in the ranks of Cold War science. And yet, as we shall see, the ideas and methods pioneered by figures like Parsons and Crowley, from psychic exploration to mind-altering experiments, would resurface later in intelligence programs, albeit under different guises. The cases of Dee, Crowley, and Parsons illustrate a historical pattern. At critical junctures, Western intelligence and military institutions have intersected with occult individuals and ideas. The final portion of this broadcast explores the ideological continuities and institutional legacies connecting those early magicians of empire to the culture and tactics of modern intelligence agencies. Particularly during World War II, the OSS era, and the subsequent Cold War, one finds surprising echoes of esoteric thought within intelligence operations. During World War II, Allied intelligence services, including the OSS, the Office of Strategic Services, America's wartime intelligence agency, experimented with unorthodox methods that paralleled occult techniques. We've noted how British intelligence figures like Ian Fleming and Maxwell Knight showed interest in using Aleister Crowley's expertise to manipulate Nazi leaders' occult beliefs. In one well-documented British operation, astrologers were employed to create bogus horoscopes and supernatural omens to confuse the enemy. The OSS, working closely with British counterparts, was aware of and at times participated in such psychological operations. For instance, the OSS's Morale Operations Branch specialized in black propaganda, some of which played on German superstitions and mystical lore. One colorful example, British intelligence concocted a scheme codenamed Operation Mistletoe to drop fake occult paraphernalia in Germany to sow fear and confusion, a plan for which Crowley's input was sought. More concretely, Allied intelligence did engage in what can be termed occult or psychic espionage during World War II. According to research cited by Lavenda, British intelligence ran a secret program involving a psychic spy codenamed Anne. This English woman allegedly had the ability to protect her consciousness, astral travel, and remotely view German military plans. Tested and found credible by British authorities, Anne was purportedly tasked with reporting on Nazi operations without leaving her armchair in London. Her accurate descriptions of enemy documents and conversations, essentially an early form of remote viewing, were taken seriously and influenced British strategy. If true, this represents an astonishing continuity. The art of scrying, practiced by John Dee in the 1580s, was repurposed as a classified intelligence tool in the 1940s. Meanwhile, Nazi Germany had its own state-sponsored occult research. Heinrich Himmler's SS invested in arcane projects, from telepathic experiments to divining with pendulums to locate enemy ships. Both Axis and Allied sides thus flirted with magical warfare, seeking an edge in a conflict perceived as metaphysical as well as ideological. The OSS, although founded on academic military science, did not dismiss reports of Nazi occultism. On the contrary, it gathered intelligence on Himmler's mystical activities and Hitler's astrological consultations, recognizing these as factors that could be exploited. After World War II, the OSS evolved into the CIA, and the climate of the Cold War brought new urgency to explore mind sciences and psychic phenomena. The legacy of figures like Crowley and Parsons is evident in several CIA and military programs that echo occult practices. There's first is MK Ultra. From the 1950s to 1960s, the CIA's notorious mind control program was essentially an attempt to technologically achieve what occultists claim to do with ritual: control the human mind and alter consciousness. Through drugs like LSD, hypnosis, sensory deprivation, and other methods, the CIA tried to unlock secrets of the psyche for use in interrogation and a covert influence. While not a cult in a religious sense, MK Ultra's fascination with hidden mental powers and altered states paralleled long-standing occult pursuits. For instance, shamanic use of entheogens, trance induction, etc. Then there was Project Stargate from the 1970s to 1980s. This was the codename for U.S. Army and CIA investigations into remote viewing and psychic spying. In response to reports that the Soviet Union had extensive ESP research programs, the U.S. initiated its own. They recruited self-proclaimed psychics and even individuals from occult backgrounds to attempt astral projection and clairvoyance under scientific protocols. Declassified documents reveal that some remote viewers were startlingly accurate in describing distant targets, which led the program to persist for 2 decades. Here we see a direct line back to John Dee's crystal gazing and traveling in spirit. Techniques once dismissed as superstition were revived under laboratory conditions to serve national security. The US and Soviets essentially engaged in a psychic arms race, each hoping that mind powers could yield intelligence beyond the reach of satellites and spies. Then there's occult symbolism and ritual in military culture. While the modern military and agencies are secular bureaucracies, they often adopted initiatory rituals and symbols reminiscent of secret societies. The early OSS was a collection of elite scholars, soldiers, and aristocrats who sometimes referred to themselves with tongue-in-cheek mystique. General William Donovan, the head of the OSS, was a Knight of Malta and surrounded himself with advisors interested in unconventional warfare. Some researchers, like Peter Levenda, have pointed out that the CIA and Pentagon during the Cold War showed pockets of interest in esoteric subjects ranging from Jungian archetypes to paranormal research. Even the U.S. Army's psychological operations units employed symbols, slogans, and ceremonies to build group cohesion, practices not so far removed from magical fraternities' use of insignias and oaths. Jack Parsons' story prefigured a broader phenomenon where cutting-edge tech development intertwined with fantastical or fringe ideas. For example, some early Silicon Valley technologists in the 1980s, many influenced by science fiction and Eastern mysticism, engaged with intelligence and defense projects while espousing quasi-spiritual transhumanist ideals, a modern echo of Parsons' dual life. As space exploration continued, NASA itself occasionally attracted individuals with esoteric interests, like astronaut Edgar Mitchell, for instance, pursued telepathy experiments from orbit. Intelligence agencies quietly kept tabs on all such experiments, keen to know if psychic or magical techniques could yield real advantages. So, taking a step back, it's possible to identify ideological continuities that link the magus of Elizabeth's court to the operatives of today's intelligence agencies. First, there's the value of secrecy and initiation. Occult orders and intelligence agencies both function on hierarchies of secrecy. Knowledge is compartmentalized. Initiates are brought into inner circles after proving loyalty. John Dee with his covert imperial alchemy, Crowley with his secret magical decrees, and the CIA with its clearance levels all embrace the notion that power comes from hidden knowledge held by the few. Then there's the use of ciphers and code languages. From Dee's Enochian alphabet and numeric ciphers to Crowley's cryptograms and coded diaries to modern encryption by intelligence agencies, the practice of encoding messages to only the enlightened or cleared can understand is a shared obsession. It highlights a mindset where truth is occulted or hidden by default. Then there's psychological manipulation. Magicians and spies are both masters of illusion and influence. Crowley understood how to manipulate public perception. His traitorous writings and individual belief, as in cult leadership. Intelligence officers similarly deal in deception, propaganda, and persona crafting, which is the art of disguise and the double agent. Both exploit symbols and narratives to achieve results, whether a ritual to channel will or a psyop to demoralize a population. Then there's higher missions and mythology. All three figures studied believed they were serving a cause larger than themselves. Dee saw it as manifesting a prophesized British Empire under divine sanction. Crowley believed he was ushering in a new eon that would revolutionize society. Parsons envisioned a future where humanity would reach the stars and attain spiritual as well as physical liberation. Interestingly, intelligence agencies often adopt grand narratives too. For instance, defending the free world against evil during the Cold War, a quasi-Manichaean view or worldview. This sense of mission can attract ideologues and visionaries, some of whom may come from occult or fringe backgrounds driven by similarly apocalyptic or utopian fervor. It is important to note that institutional memory of these occult involvements is seldom acknowledged openly. One will not find magical training in the CIA field manual. However, the hidden influences persist in subtler forms. For instance, modern information warfare, shaping mass belief through disinformation, can be likened to casting a large-scale glamour in the occult sense. The recruitment of psychologists, anthropologists, and even artists by agencies reflects an understanding that controlling perception is as important as firepower. In this way, the magicians and the spy masters are kindred spirits. Each seeks to bend reality to his will, whether through incantation or intelligence. In traversing the lives of John Dee, Aleister Crowley, and Jack Parsons, we find that the boundary between occultism and the apparatus of empire has always been porous. These three magicians of empire operated in different centuries and contexts: Tudor England, 2 world wars, and the dawn of the Cold War, yet all leveraged esoteric knowledge in tandem with serving or subverting state power. John Dee gave the burgeoning British Empire its ideological blueprint and early spy network, using astrology and alchemy alongside espionage to advance Elizabethan dominance. Aleister Crowley, professing a new religion of will, intersected with the world of clandestine operations, putting his showman's flair and occult insights to work in undermining Britain's enemies during the World Wars. Jack Parsons, bridging science and magic, materially bolstered American military might through rocketry, even as he sought to invoke otherworldly powers, only to be caught in the gears of the national security state when his occult and libertarian activities drew suspicion. Each man in his own way illuminates how intelligence agencies and occult practitioners share an affinity for the clandestine. Both traffic in secrets not meant for the masses, whether those secrets be political or metaphysical. Both create myths and symbols, be it an imperial icon, a religious creed, or a national ideology, to motivate and manipulate. And tellingly, both have at times collaborated. The British Crown consulting Imagus on navigation and coded angels, the OSS tapping into the occult underbelly of Nazism, or the Cold War CIA probing psychic phenomena. What are the institutional legacies of this curious alliance? For one, modern intelligence agencies have shown a repeated willingness to explore fringe ideas when conventional methods seemed insufficient. From Project Stargate's remote viewers, heirs to Dee and Crowley in technique, if not in language, to psychological operations employing ritualistic theatrics. So, for instance, leaflets with supernatural threats, stage miracles in propaganda. The influence of magical thinking on strategy persists. Secondly, the very culture of intelligence, its cult of secrecy, initiation, and code names mirrors that of occult orders. It's no coincidence that the founding generation of the CIA included many who had studied folklore, psychology of religion, and unconventional belief systems. They understood that to sway populations, one must grapple with their irrational and mystical side. In the end, the hidden magical roots of agencies like the OSS and CIA remind us that these institutions are not purely rational, technocratic machines. They have always operated in the shadows, a liminal space where perception and reality blur, much like the twilight world of the occult. As we have seen, individuals like Dee, Crowley, and Parsons were adept at navigating those shadows. They serve as a reminder that the shaping of empires and the conduct of espionage have often depended as much on arcane insight and psychological spellcasting as a brute force. The modern intelligence officer and the court sorcerer are, in a sense, spiritual cousins. Each is entrusted with secrets and charged with using hidden knowledge to safeguard the realm. Thus, the history traced in this podcast shows a provocative conclusion. Far from being antithetical, the occult and the intelligence worlds have been mutually influential co-travelers. The magicians of empire cast long shadows, shadows that stretch into the very protocols and mindset of today's intelligence agencies. Understanding this intertwined legacy enriches our perspective on how power truly operates, reminding us that what is unseen, be it an angelic cipher or a covert operation, can decisively shape the course of history. And that is it. And that is all, folks. So, nothing more than that. So, let's go through some comments because I am obviously way behind. Here we go. All right. Oh, wow. So Jalay Jalal saying it's not just YouTube. AI just dropped my costume work page into oblivion for no reason. Yikes. All right. Jalay Jalal is saying Thula or Tula Theosophy, the channeling done at CIA supported that produced Gene Roddenberry, Council of Nine, Law of One, MK Ultra, all pursued by the military industrial complex at taxpayer expense. Hey, Gray Al, good to see you. He writes, "Happy sleepy holiday to all in the group, and by the way, you're all late. Just don't let it happen again." Gray Al writes, "Laugh out loud. Got to tighten down the quarters if Sean wants to invade Europe, figuratively speaking, strategically, as he oversees the tag campaign like a board game of Risk." So Gray also writes, "I've had a couple of ultra creepy, anomalous vids come across my desk in the last 4 days. Oh boy. Very exciting," Jalay Jalal says. Okay. Grayal continues, and what the witnesses dialogue they are seeing in the vid is one thing, but with my now capable Grayal X revision, I can see what they describe. But they do not notice the larger situation around them, and it makes watching the vid a bit like watching a horror movie. Sheesh, I tell you, Ish is getting highly strange out there in the field, as it were. Yeah, apparently Ian Fleming may have run with Crowley. I don't know for sure, Roger Claiborne, because again, I generate the scripts using AI. That's the only thing I generate scripts for using AI. But can hardly wait for your analysis and the super cool beatnik music selections too. Let's see. Hey, Spiderbite, good to see you. Roger Claiborne is writing, Crowley might have been part of the UK's version of the MK Ultra mind control experiments. It's looking like interesting. That is kind of strange. Roger Claiborne is also saying the Axis dark magic was brought to the U.S. after World War II and now seems to be running things through the CIA. Oh, that's creepy. Jalay Jalal reports that her father worked for Aerojet. Spiderbite worked for Boeing for a while. Yeah, it does. A little bit. Okay, so Roger Claiborne saying all those Nazis brought their dark magic and mind control with them, and our MK Ultra program supposedly from. Yeah, they definitely helped out with that. Solate US Expat is saying Dr. Joseph Farrell's book, or Farrell's book, Hess and the Penguin, shows strong evidence that it wasn't really Hess in that prison and that he died in a plane crash. Okay. Oh boy. Spiderbite has written, "My TV has frozen with Sean on it." That's ominous. Jalay Jalal writes, "Now the Hollywood stagecraft is so well developed, the use of latex masks and vaudeville performance artists does the trick. Equals Biden is a prime example." Yeah, but I hope it isn't permanent, Spiderbite. Solite US Expat writes, "The Mandela effect is real." Dr. Joseph Farrell, P. Farrell, gets into it in one of his books and podcasts. Spiderbite writes, "I went into settings. The reception is down a little. I got NBN to stop, but it's the same as B4, a bit lousy. Yikes." Roger Claiborne writes, "I'm a member of the Giza Death Star website. Interesting blogs and comments there." That's Farrell's website, I think. Okay. Solite US Expat saying, "I remember Nelson Mandela dying in prison. I also remember when I was a kid in the movie The Empire Strikes Back, Luke, I Am Your Father. I watched the movie in the 80s. Isn't that what it says in The Empire Strikes Back? That's what I remember. Luke, I am your father. And then Seoul US Expat saying I also remember Grand Central Station, Norman Finkelstein, who was just interviewed, said Grand Central Station when he was talking about something. Then the movie Interview with the Vampire, there was a video where they presented awards in Hollywood, some old video, and they said the name in the video that I remember. Some of the ME effect, I believe, was totally pre-planned years before, 100%. I think they did that with Cornucopia, Spider Bite writes. Yeah, we don't. Yeah, Jalal Jalal understandably says, "What is a cornucopia?" I don't know the answer to that either. Solite at US Expat continues. Then there is Gomer Pyle. I was a big fan as a kid. I remember hearing on the radio that he died and telling my mother years later. I read that he's still alive and married to some dude. Oh, cornucopia. I got it. Yeah, basket with fruit in it. Okay, so Solite US Expat says, I think from Future Forecasting Group, their special friend of the show said it's an ET race tinkering around with the timelines or something like that. I can't remember the details. Okay, Solite US Expat said there's one channel, I can't remember the name. If I do, Sean should interview the guy because I think the channel only talks about the Mandela effect. Okay. Roger Claiborne continues. When Jeb Bush ran for Florida governor, the news said he was unrelated to the President Bush, then later admitted he was his son. I think they write whatever script they need to manipulate us. Even counters previous scripts they push. Lying is second nature to them. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, Roger Claiborne says the Mandela effect is in part them forgetting past scripts they played out for public consumption and bringing out actors that died in previous to play new parts in new scripts. Who knows? Hey, Onside, good to see you. All right, good night, Jalal. Thank you, Spider Bite. Yeah, I went outside tonight and there were owls, two of them, but this time they were to the southeast, I think. Mm. All right, I'm all caught up on all the comments, and I am all out of what the heck is it called? Content. So, how was everyone's Halloween? Everybody have get lots of candy, good night, all that good stuff. I also, I've been talking about this for a while, but it bears repeating. So there's a post that I just put out, at least on Halloween. Oh boy, Solite US Expat. So how does the frankincense work to manifest things? Is that what frankincense Does? I can't remember. I have no idea. I mean, I light one every night, so who knows? I mean, it smells nice. It might purify or something. I don't know. I don't know what the purpose of frankincense is. Um, yeah. Anyway, yesterday I released 2 collections of my short stories, so please do check them out. One of them is Hellhold and Other Stories, and the other is Necromancer and Other Stories. They're very dark. Not all the stories are dark, but most of the stories are dark. Hence my releasing them in Halloween. Um, yeah, they're all reprints. But like I've sold these stories before, so they're not bad. It's not like I just cranked out a few stories and now I'm just publishing them on Amazon. They're all good stories. Uh, in fact, I'm trying to think. Yeah, in Necromancer and Other Stories, there's a story in there called a Dramalek that won a national award. Like I went down to Hollywood and it was published in this anthology. The L. Ron Hubbard's Writers of the Future anthology, actually. Just to throw that out there. But that's one of the stories. So like I went down to Hollywood to like accept the award. So they're good stories. So please do check them out. You can find them on Amazon. Probably like, I mean, you could probably buy them on the Target and Walmart websites, maybe. I don't know. And you could also get them on Kindle. So they are all up right now. And even in the description, they're in the link there. So please do check them out. It helps me invest in this channel, invest in the business, and get closer to being able to do this full time and not making mistakes like deleting a future channel because I'm so exhausted and working all the time. That's like typically don't make mistakes like that. Let's see. I think I just missed a bunch of things. Oh. Huh. Roger Claiborne, lousy. My niece and nephew didn't go trick or treating, so I can't raid their candy this year. That's a good point. I should reach out to him and see if I can get him back on about his new book. Yeah, that's a good one. I'd love to get Diana Walsh Pasulka to talk about her new book too, but she never responds to me. Yeah, Gray Owl says, woohoo, not only is our host an illustrious tactician and command capable operator, but he can pen the heck out of a good short story. You got some mad skills, bro. Thank you. Thank you, brother. I think you're not just saying that. I think you actually bought my first collection, Alien Abattoir and Other Stories. I would love to be like, look, if I could focus on this full time, I would like travel to like locations and do investigations and do all sorts of crazy stuff. But I'm not remotely close to there yet. Oh, really? A lot of I should call him after this thing. But Spiritual Ascension writes the recent interview with Nathaniel has me concerned for him. Yeah, I'm not. I have like a low empathy score, so I have to. I should reach out and find out. I will. I'll let him know he's not alone. Thank you, Gray Owl. So Gray Owl has read my work, and he's read my early work, which means I've only gotten better since then. So, like, he's read like some of the stories he's read were, yeah, the first and second short stories I've ever written are in that anthology. So, yeah, that's the dark story. They're all pretty. I mean, not all, but many of them are pretty dark. Now, if you don't like dark stories, then yeah, I don't recommend it. But if you're kind of into that, they're dark. Yeah, he's a good He's pretty good. Let's see. We just see how we're doing. These are doing okay. Ish. Not too shabby. Not too shabby. All right. Yeah, and I've been a little bit dismissive. There's some stuff that like freaks him out that doesn't even register on my radar because there's just different things that freak me out and stress me out. Yeah, I'll give him a call and just pass that along. In fact, maybe I can have him come on right now. I'm literally just texting him. We'll see what he says. I mean, he's probably out. It's a Saturday night, so. I'll know sooner or later. Oops. Let me just go backward here a little bit. Hey, Timepiece Avengers. Good to see you. He writes, "Hey, Sean and listeners. Hope everyone's doing well." Yeah, we'll see. It's a Saturday night, and he's a single man, so I'm not. It would be better if I give him more heads up, but you never know. You never know. And don't forget to reach out to what's his name. I can never remember his name. Love that guy. Yeah, I'm not sure which guy it is, but hey, Curtis W75. Thank you for joining us at Spiritual. Hey, Kurt. A Kurt Metzger? I mean, I don't. That would be a weird show. I wouldn't be able to get one word out. Lade Bradle? It's an unusual name. I don't know. I do not know. That's you and Kurt communicating. Which Kurt? Kurt who? Oh, that I just read your name. I'm like, Kurt, which Kurt? Hey Sean, good to see you, buddy. Not that, not Metzger. I don't talk that much. Okay. Well, good to have you on board, Kurt. Oh, Laird Baron. Laird Baron. I mean, he's got like that's like a name from Central Casting for horror. Yeah, he's been having a lot of like health struggles recently, so I gotta I'll go to his Patreon and see if see how he's doing before I reach out. Thank you, Spiritual Ascension. He writes, always good to see you, Sean. Yeah, yeah. Laird Barron. I'm just gonna spell it out so people can. And you should. I mean, he's an amazing. He's literally the best horror writer of his generation. He's like the H.P. Lovecraft of his generation. So definitely check out particularly his short stories. So definitely check out his short stories. But this is his name. He's got a Patreon too. That's part of it is free. So subscribe to that. But check him out. He's a really good dude. Oh, okay. Kurt writes, I watched Sean and Michelle's show also. I listen to yours mostly on Spotify. Oh, thank you. Yeah, Spotify, that channel is doing well. I mean, it's the same stuff, but no, he doesn't have a YouTube. As far as I know, he doesn't have a YouTube. Yeah, I mean, he's a real man. He is a good dude. So light at US Expat. Last night while having a smoke, I found 10,000 Korean won on the ground. Then I start walking again. I see another 10,000 Korean won on the ground. So 13.99. The most I ever found was 80K on the ground. That's really random. Yeah, that's the one. That's the one that YouTube sent me the concern email. Are you okay? Yeah. So yeah, I would be better if you didn't like limit monetization on that explicit video. But yeah, how about you not limit monetization on one of my videos and not send me an email concern trolling me? Like, how about that? That would be much better. So yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah, it they really need to tune that AI. Let's just say they got to retune Gemini. Not only does it not draw like white Vikings, which are, as far as I know, all white. Like, it also sends concern troll emails. Please don't off yourself. Thank you. Yeah, but ChatGPT doesn't do stuff like that. Grok doesn't do stuff like that. Grok doesn't reach out and send an email saying, please don't unalive yourself because you have a video that uses the term for unaliving in it. Yeah. Yeah, it's just not it's just like a discount basement version. Yep. That's a little scary. Yeah, because they don't want you to unsubscribe painlessly. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Oops. Just trying to get this thing like set. Oh, brother. What else is on people's minds? Yeah. Oh yeah. Just I didn't thank you for mentioning that, Spiritual Ascension. Okay, if you're not subscribed, please do, like and subscribe this broadcast. Only obviously if you're enjoying it. If you're not enjoying it, completely understand. So I'm just gonna put that little thing at the bottom. More importantly, if you think you are subscribed, please do me a favor and just double check that YouTube didn't unsubscribe you again. Okay. And then if they did and you thought you're subscribed, please write in the comments that you were involuntarily unsubscribed, because this does happen. And I had great growth over the last 2 months. And if you're new here, welcome. Thank you very much. But that growth is like after that one video that YouTube thought was gonna make me unalive myself, that they explicitly put the brakes on, and didn't demonetize, but like limited monetization, and then they just like it just performed horribly because presumably they put the brakes on it. um things had slowed down like materially after that. So getting to 20,000 it's not a guarantee. I mean, it's still possible, but I mean, if I grew at the rate of the last 2 months, I would get there this month of November. But now, not so sure. Right? I was hoping to cross 19,000 in October, and I did not. I didn't even do it yet today. So I'm like 14 away from doing that. So again, please double check and then let me know. Let me know if that has happened to anybody. Exactly. Thanks for your Spiritual Ascension. Yeah, I did. I responded. It said, "Was this email helpful?" And I responded. No, I mean, I hit no, and then I just said, like, "It's outrageous that they sent that to me." Well, it could also be that people are hitting dislike, because dislikes don't show up; they just reduce your likes. Yeah. Spiritual Ascension writes, YouTube limiting monetization is like a rich man shopping in Target. Well, I mean, look, they do have community guidelines and advertising guidelines, and maybe there's certain keywords, like you probably can't talk about dimethyltryptamine. I'm not deliberately not saying the initials, because so we do talk about that a little bit. So it is what it is. But I'm more upset that they just sent me that thing. Like after they took a club to the video, and then to send something like that, like is like adding insult to injury. I don't have a problem with them limiting monetization. Like that's their call. That's fine. But to like come in with a secondary club and act like it just it doesn't add to a lot of confidence in their AI. Like it actually. No, they had a human watch it because I challenged it. It's the only time in like 200 or 300 something videos that YouTube disagreed with my rating. So I challenged the AI, and then they had a human that come in. Look, I get it. Like they don't want people saying those words or whatever. They're a lot better than they used to be honest. After Trump won the election, and Elon Musk bought Twitter, like YouTube and Facebook could no longer alter reality at their whim, right? Because they had a competitor that was kind of had a wider range of free speech on it. Now, you can't say anything against Elon Musk. You will get censored on X. So that's like the only kink in the armor there, but that's fine. I'd rather take that than, you know, the alternative. Oh, brother. Yeah. So Gray Al writes, good to know about the dislikes thing, Sean. Therein lies one of the intentional issues with how this social credit thing is put in place to work against us. There is no owner's manual or appeal system to question any decision that one of these platforms control alt deletes one of us. That's why I have my own Spotify, like a Spotify channel. It's why I started a Substack. Um, I even have a Rumble channel, but nobody watches it, and I make no money on it. So don't waste your time. Um, and I don't upload anything to it. So let's see. Roger Claiborne is writing, I don't trust the motives of anything partially owned by the intelligence agency or government. I don't trust anything anymore. Unless like I know somebody who was physically at a location. Solite US expat, I could use some more. I have enough let's see. I have enough guests to get me all but 2 episodes in November. Or sorry, not November. November's done. I just need 2, like 1 more guest at a minimum, and I also want to start recording into February because a lot of people don't want to meet or record videos during December for obvious reasons or during the holidays. So I try to get as much built inventory as I can built up so I don't miss anything. But I have enough. I have like 3 interviews into December. I have another 5 episodes worth of interviews scheduled with like 3 different people. And then I would need, probably 3 more people to make sure that I get to like the first half of January done as soon, like in advance, so that when things resume to normal in the second week of January, I'm not scrambling for guests. So let's see. This lined up. Yep. I should reach out to Dean. Hey, Donnie TCG says, Hail Satan. Hey, whatever floats your boat, brother. I'm not here to judge. I'm not here to judge. So Kurt W75, YouTube will probably straighten up if Rumble starts to tip the scales, but I understand to a point, hot words, etc. People are sensitive and also controlling. Just got to keep grinding and find others. Yeah, Spotify is like, it's in terms of like remuneration, it's about 50% of YouTube, like what I get from YouTube on fewer watches. So it's a good alternative. Like I'm going to keep doing it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it has to be like it's more of a political thing. All right, Donnie. All right, Donnie. All right. I don't. You might scare some people away, but so it makes me wonder: are you part of the intelligence establishment? I don't know. But anyway, to each their own. So Roger Claiborne saying my business is being held back and my reviews are being blocked, and I wonder if it's because I have a low social credit score. Yeah, it's unfortunately coming. Yeah, thank you for watching, Donnie. Like, look, I'm I just interviewed. It's coming soon, so the whole that whole topic is complicated, right? Like, there's a lot of kind of the Luciferian stuff came from Prometheus, who basically gave fire to humanity and all that stuff. So the stuff's not black and white anymore. Um, But what was I going to say? I forget what I was going to say. Oh, I just interviewed Jason Giorgiani, and he makes a very interesting case that the powers that be, aren't, are pretty dark and not associated with Satan. But anyway, so Roger Claiborne, the irony I might call it such in your examples, given no, they will even not tell you why you're canceled. Correct. Yeah, I'm just trying to think. I could do that. It would just. I need to reach out to Morehouse actually. So Solite US Expat is saying, what about a powwow? Lynn Buchanan, Ed Reardon, Daz Smith, and David Morehouse together. I need to reach out to David Morehouse. Actually, it's been a while. So collaborating consciousness. What are my views on targeted individual gang stalking? I mean, I obviously don't agree with it. I think it's a coward's game. But calibrating consciousness, can you be a little bit more specific? I would actually like to engage in this topic just to figure out what do you mean by targeted individual? Like gang stalking, I think is pretty bad. But what do you mean by targeted individual, and what defines a targeted individual? Because I want to make sure I understand the context and definition, because I might interpret it as being something else, and you might have a more specific definition. So if you could just write that down, and then I can address more fully. Yeah, I don't even know. Can somebody send me his email? So Solite US Expat says, or try and see if you can get Joseph McMonagle on. Yeah, I definitely would. What, Luciferians? Well, I mean, that's literally what it means, Lightbringer, right? I'm not taking a stand. I've been lied to so often, I'm willing to like turn over every rock and open to like listening to what people have to say, right? Like, right? Yeah, I grew up Catholic. I still pray to God, all that good stuff because it works. But I'm not like, we live in a weird reality where everybody lies to us. So I'm pretty open to things. So Gray Owl writes, I think Giorgiani made a good postulation about being labeled as a devil type for rebelling against the system. The system needs to be rocked, else. Yeah, that's the other thing. Like, there's a useful function that the rebel provides, right? When things become too static, and they're going to crack. Nathan Reynolds is the dude to interview. Nathan Reynolds. Okay, I will take a look. Yeah, I don't pretend to know much about it. So yeah, maybe, maybe not. But in order to kind of delve into all these topics, you have to be open to looking into things. So Roger Claiborne says, too bad they don't let us know what our secret social credit score is, so all of us low scores can get together. Bet we're all the coolest dudes on the net. Yeah, pretty much. All right, thank you, Soul US Expat. Anyway, yeah, Donnie, I hope I didn't like make you feel unwelcome or anything like that. I'm just pretty open about what my views are and all that stuff. But in fact, there's a book I just read. It's called The Dark Man or something like that. It's by Dara Mason, and that's the whole book is about Old Scratch and the King of the Witches and all that stuff, and what his origins are. And it's very similar to kind of what Giorgiani was talking about, right? It's meant to disrupt the system, the trickster card. It goes back to notions of Pan, the horned one or whatever, which originally came from like a stag, like a deer thing. And it was kind of twisted by the church when they came to pagan Ireland, as an example. So, anyway, Um, everyone is welcome here. We're not. This is not a place about ideologies, but it is a place about truth. So if someone comes here and wants to kind of just deliberately trafficking in lies, then yeah, you're not you're not welcome. But other than that, we're all just trying to get to the truth. And I think by having a doctrinaire response to everything is not helpful. It's just not. So let's see. All right. Let me let me see which one you send it to because I have like a billion different email addresses. All right, so it's not that one. I don't think. Oh no, it is that one. Okay. Let's see. All right. All right. Sorry. I got it. Thank you. Soul US expat. Yeah. Well, sorry. Spiritual ascension writes, I think deep down you know the truth. Deep down, but on the surface, I don't have a clue what's going on. Oh. Oh, you got it from Gemini. I'm probably you probably gave me the address for some like a black man named Joe McMonagle. Uh, you know, because that's how Gemini rolls. Yeah, I'm kind of worried if Gemini wins the AI race, like people like me will probably be exterminated. I'm just busting your balls, Soul. I don't trust Google's AI at all because it's so woke. You know, you can't program that sort of like biased information like that, like shamelessly biased information like that, and expect a positive outcome. So I avoid Gemini assiduously. I like Notebook LLM though. I'm a fan of that one. Yeah, it does. I'm saying it in jest, Soul US expat. Like I think you gave me the stuff that's I think the stuff you sent me is right. I'm just being difficult. Or not difficult, but this is all in jest. I'm just jesting. Let's see. Yeah, it would be great. It would be great. I think what no worries. Yeah, I think the thing is he'll see my subscriber number and he might just decide not to bother because he's been on Sean Ryan. And by the way, there was an interview. Sean Ryan interviewed Mr. Ballin, another former Navy SEAL. They're starting to like nominate podcasts for Golden Globe Awards because I mean, at the end of the day, like Mr. Ballin has more viewers than CNN, like vastly more viewers than CNN. So like this medium is overtaking traditional television. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. Let's see. Okay, so Kurt is saying I'm halfway through that one. Laugh out loud. What do you think about it, Sean? I've lost context. Let's see. Oh, it's a good episode. Yeah. Sorry, I'm like, yeah, it's a good episode. I've heard a lot of the stories that he said, like especially the one with the ghost in New Hampshire. That's a creepy story. Oh, he was? I didn't know he was on Daz's YouTube podcast and he only has a few thousand subscribers. Interesting. Yeah, I should check it out then. Yeah, I should reach out to him and reach out to Dean Radin because I would do want to get all these episodes kind of done. Huh. Okay, so Roger Claiborne said I've suspected I've been targeted a few times already, but their Viper system failed on me. God likes having me around. Why do you think you've been targeted? Just curious. No, he didn't respond. He didn't respond. Yeah, so not tonight. Who's Lenny Barrington? I don't know anything about Lenny Barrington. You mean Laird Barron? Laird Barron. Oh, that's pretty funny. Oh, God is God. Ladder of Laird Barris. Yeah, Laird Barron. Yes. Correct. Oh man. Roger Claiborne said, had my brakes lock up and not work just before rainstorm right by Viper Towers while destroying Jeb Bush politically. Never happened since. Oh my God. That's some crazy stuff, man. Ladle Barrister. Oh man. Yeah, he's a good dude. You know, he almost died like a year ago. He was hospitalized. He lost like 100 pounds. Huh. What's Viper Tower? So Roger Claiborne said happened 2 times. I mean, the first time they locked, second time another day they failed to work. Called the second one when I saw Viper Tower. Yeah, everybody's wondering what's Viper Tower. I mean, that sounds like a the title of a thriller. Oh, so Roger says those cell towers that rob your cell phone info and oh, so you think it was like 5G cell towers. I had them in Florida. Interesting. Yikes. That's some scary stuff. Now there's even more people joining. It's like the main thing is over already. I'm just getting the scraps. I mean, I don't produce this part of the podcast. You all do. Like you all do. I mean, you're literally generating all the content. I'm just responding to it. Right? I just did the first hour. You guys are doing all the heavy lifting right now. No, so what? I wonder what else is going on with folks. Okay, so Kurt W75, they put up a new one close to my house and service went right downhill. Hardly ever get it. And I bet they're taking all my info data, etc. Jeez. All right, Gray Al. You have a great rest of your weekend. I mean, we only got 8 minutes left anyway, so it's about the right time. Except for the music, of course. Ugh. Let's see. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised by that. Spiritual Ascension is saying Baal is Allah. I wouldn't be surprised. Roger Claiborne is writing, my truck can have anti-lock brake system affected by radio noise from radio amplifier. There was even a recall over it. I suspect back box in our vehicles. Yeah, maybe. Who's Patrick Jackson? Please remind me. I probably should know. Yep, black boxes. I got it. Oh, that's making a joke about you mentioned. Okay. Spiritual Ascension is writing Black Cube Tech is linked to Saturn, aka Satan, aka Kronos. Yeah, I've heard about Big Homie. Not sure what to make of him. Oh yeah, they do. In Mecca, there's that black cube. Spiritual Ascension saying, ever notice the Muslim Hajj is walking around the black cube, the Kaaba? Huh. Patrick Jackson is the Sphere Network dude. Oh. Proof is in the pudding. Indeed, Spiritual Ascension. Indeed. All right, we got 5 more minuten. 5 more minutes. Yep. Oh, I didn't know that. Baal is Satan's son. I did not know that. Got another vehicle now and not as political. Yeah, fair enough. Spiritual Ascension says, yeah, I heard it here first. So Solite US Expat says, "Oh yeah, maybe it was Ian Fleming, as I recall, and he was the only white guy to infiltrate and go to Mecca. May have been someone else, but I can't remember." I mean, I think if you're Muslim, you can be white and go to Mecca, I think, and perform the Hajj. Spiritual Ascension says, to be frank, Kronos had like 12 children. Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah, you're not going to be. So Roger Claiborne says, no way, but I need to get a truck with no computer. That means you're going to have to buy something that was made in like 2000, because everything nowadays has some sort of electronics in it. And I'm sure that they reverse it, like they engineered some sort of means for law enforcement to just stop you, to shut your engine off remotely. Oh, Spiritual Ascension says, in a nutshell, the Anunnaki are the Titans. All right. Anything else anybody wants to get out before half the weekend ends in the next 2 minutes? Indeed. Hey, Kurt W75. Thank you so much, my friend. Yeah, please do. Thank you so much for the I think it's a super sticker, right? I appreciate you. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. I haven't had one of those in a while, actually. At least in like a month. All right, everyone. Great. Another $25. Well, let me finish that. Another $25, and you could buy a cup of coffee in California. Not quite that much, but yeah. Thank you very much, Spiritual Ascension. I appreciate you. Hey, I was just in Pennsylvania, Kurt, in September. I was in Pittsburgh, so for business stuff. So thank you very much. Kurt says I'll stay in Pennsylvania. Thank you, my friend. All right, everyone. Good night. God bless. And I will see you again next week. Good night.